Hello and welcome to the Patreon and YouTube channel members live stream today, the 27th of January 2019. Hopefully everything's working because I've got speakers plugged into my computer and my headset's the microphone, so it looks like everyone can hear me. But let me know if you can't in the chat or somehow else. Yes, so I say the Patreon only live stream, which I've been doing for about 4 years since I've been doing Patreon basically. But it's also YouTube channel members, which is a new thing on YouTube, which is a bit like Patreon, but it's through YouTube. And at the moment, it's fixed price and per month. A few people have signed up. There's not very many. I only launched it a couple of weeks ago because it's a new feature. I think YouTube Gaming's had it for longer. But basically, it's just another way to support the channel. So if you don't like Patreon, you can be a YouTube channel member. It's slightly different because it's fixed on a month, and the Patreon at the moment is set up per creation. So I'm not sure whether to change that to monthly or what will happen in the end. It might be. I need to think about that. At the moment, the YouTube thing's quite new, so there's only one tier, which is a fixed price per month. And Patreon, of course, I've got different tiers with different rewards. I might be changing that to monthly so we can have a tangible benefit, like a free exclusive t-shirt, but I'm not doing it yet. I'm not sure what happens if I change a Patreon per creation to monthly, whether all the pledges go away, so I need to investigate that. But there we go. So yeah, the YouTube thing is there's a community wall on my YouTube channel where all of the same content that patrons get, so the same pictures that and sneak peeks and things, and also the videos early and the live streams will pop up on there. So it's a bit like the Patreon wall, but it's on YouTube. So we'll see, of course, how that works out. But yeah, obviously now the live streams and all the benefits are for everyone. So good. It looks like everything's working. Yes, so I've got my eye on the chat. If there's anything you'd like to ask during the live stream, then put it in the chat. And if you open the link in a new window, you should see the whole thing with the chat window on one side. So yes, thanks to all patrons and all YouTube channel members. That's really it. So yeah, I haven't done a live stream for a while due to Transformers, which is now, of course, over. It's one of those big movie promos. There seem to be about 2 a year for the last couple of years. Those couple of eBay ones that I did. So that is fortunately over. What happens to the Transformer now? What happens to Bumblebee? Well, unfortunately, it has to be dismantled contractually. It can never be seen again. And that's basically so I don't go around Comic Cons doing Transformer demos and making more money from it, because I'm not allowed to. So the parts will be reused. The pneumatic cylinder, which is down here, we'll talk about in a minute, is one of the ones from the actual Transformer. There are 4 of them. But I'd like to build those into another project, which we'll discuss. And will be discussed in that series. So yes, the teaser for this live stream was the machine that we've got here, which I'm just going to move the camera back and I'll tell you what it is. But the video will be coming up early for patrons and YouTube channel members in about tomorrow, I think, maybe the next day. So what have we got, as well as Tickle Me Elmo? It's a crazy machine with loads of shutters, and all the shutters are on servos, and hopefully you could hear the music on the intro. And basically so we've got lasers, a whole bunch of them, that make a laser line that obviously projects out. As this spins around, it's on a motor. I was turning it manually. Just open the one there. So they basically 7 laser lines, 7 laser pointers. There's other ways of doing it, but these are pretty bright, so they're pretty awesome. And then shutters, of course, which react to the music. And this is basically a 7-band graphic equalizer. Each of these shutters is 1 frequency band, and it gets higher based on the amplitude of that frequency band. And round the back, if we just turn it all round, being careful of all these dodgy adapters plugged into the audio. Round the back, we've got a mess, but as you'd expect, an Arduino, a Mega. And we've also got some boards here, and these are MSG EQ7s, which is the 7-band graphic equalizer board. There's 2 soldered on here. I'm only using 1, and that's because these are the ones out of Ultron's ears when I did that "Which direction is Ultron hearing you from" video. So basically, it's a chip that plugs into a couple of pins on the Arduino, and most of the data comes through one analog in. It separates 7 bands of frequency data out. So I've got a stereo pair there, and then that just moves the servo positions. So yes, and we've got a brushless motor with a car ESC that spins this whole thing round to generate a laser line. So it's basically a laser projector graphic equalizer. That's all the breakout for 7 servos. So yes, this video is done. It's coming up for patrons and YouTube channel members. I think tomorrow I put it up. This one is sponsored by Skillshare again. So we had to wait for approval for that. Otherwise, you'd have had it sooner. But I don't mind doing a Skillshare shout out because it's actually quite good and kind of relevant as well. There's a few of those going on, which I'll mention. But not forever. We'll be going back to normal videos at some point. There might be the odd ad read if they're worth it. Yes, so 7 laser pointers. We could have had 1 and a beam splitter, but actually these are pretty cheap and they're really powerful. I think they're around 10 milliwatts, so it could project on a building or something like that. And this is going to be one of the sort of projects in sort of a series, but not really a series, of projects associated with music and audio, because I don't know how many people remember the collaboration I did with Sam from Look Mum No Computer, where we used Robot X as a thing which, you know, was a dancing robot with fire that came out of it. So I quite enjoyed that collaboration. I'm actually quite musical. Maybe you can see there's a keyboard in the corner, actually. And I own several guitars and an electric drum kit and used to be in a band and all sorts of stuff. So music is something I don't do in the channel enough, which I think I should, because I've got the skills to do it, especially for the music technology side. So the stuff Sam does in his channel, which is Look Mum No Computer, where he made the Furby organ, and he does a few offbeat things like that, but mostly he doesn't use a computer. He uses synths, a modular synths that he builds. And I'm going to leave him to that. The things I'll do will be completely different. So stuff like the laser EQ. I'm also going to be doing some MIDI projects. So I've got here the SparkFun MIDI Shield, which you don't really need, but it has got opto isolators, but you can just attach MIDI ports straight to your serial port of an Arduino, and there's a library. So you can either create note data to send out to synths, or you can receive note data from a keyboard or from a MIDI player running on a computer with a USB MIDI port, and you can get all that note data, the note, the velocity, the program change, pitch bend, all of that stuff. So it's very easy to either make a synth out of whatever it is. There's a thing called the Floppytron, which is a channel where it's loads of floppy drives and a scanner that play well-known music, which probably works in a similar way. And obviously we could make an input device, so we can make a crazy keyboard that generates the notes and plug that into lots of synths, or do all of that. So obviously it's all Arduino and code, so it's still quite a thing that I'd like to do. And obviously it's like the music side, which I don't do enough of really. So I'm not going to be turning into a synth channel, but there'll be the odd project. And so I guess the laser EQ is kind of a taster for that. I've got some other ideas coming up, including making a pipe organ with a vacuum cleaner and some other offbeat stuff. So there's going to be some of these sort of like videos on a theme, but 1 or 2 parts coming up. We've pretty much got different videos for January and February every week. OpenDog we'll talk about in a minute. That's definitely still ongoing, but we've got to a point where I need to do a lot to make a video with content in that's worth watching. So that's probably not going to be every 2 weeks. And at the moment, I'm waiting for several things to even do their next episode, which I've mentioned in some of the videos anyway. So yes, let's talk about OpenDog now. So OpenDog is this table, which is just here. So what do I need to do to OpenDog? Yeah, it's a useful table at the moment for lots of the videos. So what have we got to do? And I've mentioned these things in the video. It's pretty much the same as the end of part 13. The main thing is to upgrade the electronics to a Teensy 3.6. So at the moment, OpenDog's got 3 Arduino Megas in, and I want to throw them all away and replace it with this, which has got 6 UARTs on it, so we can communicate with all of the O drives. Or we could potentially use CAN bus when that's written into the firmware, because the Teensy has CAN bus built in. We've also got to do some metal upgrades and some other bits and pieces to it. I need to use my lathe that I've now got to make proper encoder mounts. And yes, and then restructure all the software so it's not running over loads of Arduinos strung together with serial. It's running on one, and that should make it much easier to control. So the plan will be to have sort of like dynamic filters for the motion smoothing, having the PID controllers with the inertial measurement unit patch the changes sort of after the filter rather than it, having to go through one Arduino and sending it to the other where the filter's running. It's a bit of a mess at the moment, and really I've bitten off more than I can chew with the Arduinos that are in there. Basically, the kinematic model was all fine, and that's as far as I thought. So yeah. So the main thing I'm actually waiting from is from the ODrive firmware to put the limit switches in. So when it homes the actuator, it keeps its own 0 position, because at the moment those are saved on the slave Arduinos, so it can remember that position. And then I don't have to go and rehome every actuator every time I power the thing up. So I'm waiting for that in the firmware. I know that they're working on it, and hopefully that'll be done soon. And I'm also waiting for all the metal pulleys to arrive instead of the 3D printed plastic ones, because they slip. And the company I get them from didn't have stock, so I still don't have them. So we're probably not going to get a video on this till March, I'd have thought. But yeah, it's definitely an ongoing project. And after that, then I have to write software to hopefully make it work well. I think we'll go back to a static gate where it takes one leg off the ground at a time. But hopefully it should be to move that leg quick enough and bring it forward while all the others move back, that we get some sort of constant motion with one leg moving at a time. I think that's how I'm going to make it work to start with. And obviously then we can dynamically motion smooth that leg or motion smooth the others. And building, hopefully, maybe some IMU data. I'm not sure if it's going to need it statically stable, probably isn't. But yeah, there's quite a lot to do there. And then I'm hopefully going to write a much better way of programming gaits, the style of walking, so that we can control all those motions and keep the constant velocity and stuff like that, rather than it moving in a jerky way, which will make it wobble. So there's quite a lot to do there, really. There'll be detailed videos, but I don't want to be producing a 10-minute video, say, where nothing much happens, because people will lose interest, and the views have been quite good on that series so far. And at the moment, I'm quite enjoying doing, a different video every week. So we've got the actuator video, which we just got a glimpse of there, coming up. That's already up for patrons and channel members, which comes out Tuesday. Laser EQ is going to be the week after. And then the one after that is the next breakfast making machine. And then we've got a number of other projects that I'm going to talk about shortly. So let's just see what's in the chat, because there's some comments. But yeah, so machine learning is quite an interesting one. I think from my point of view on my own, having machine learning to make OpenDog walk will be slower to write the machine learning algorithm than it would for me to just do it manually. That said, there was somebody from a university who said if we put an inertial measurement unit on the robot, made it walk a bit, gave them all the data, they could make a simulator for the robot to see how it moves and things. So they could basically simulate what it does physically in the virtual world, train it to walk in the virtual world, and then come and put the data back on the robot. But I think really I need to have restructured all the software first so it's actually possible. And that filters work in the right place and stuff like that. But that's something I'd like to do in the long term. But I think that's probably going to be more of a collaborative effort, because I'm not really a software person. So yeah, I think that yeah, that's it's something that would have to happen once I've got sort of like core functionality. Yeah, a smaller, less costly robot. Well, yeah, so there is so let me just click on this link that Dave's posted here. I'm aware of several other robot dogs, and I'm not sure. Oh, Stanford, right? Yeah, I've seen that one. Looks good. Yeah, it's quite agile, and it doesn't seem to have the legs that go that way. So I think it just moves its legs so quick that it doesn't fall down. And I think I have seen the machine learning stuff for that. So yeah, belt-driven motor, and a couple of belt-driven brushless motors that pull a crank like that on each side to make the leg position. Controlled by ODrive. Yeah, it looks pretty good. It walks pretty well. It's quite fast. So but yeah, I mean, like a lighter robot. So there will be other robots that I build in the meantime. I quite like to make walking robots. The jumping robot leg project, which hasn't done too badly on YouTube for an experimental thing. Where is it? I had to take the rig to bits because it's big. So this, this is something else I want to work on as well, which is a different type of dynamic stability as described in that video. So the plan is to build a tripod robot. Why do anything conventional? I don't want to keep making more and more two-legged or four-legged robots because it's all going to get confusing and people think I've abandoned OpenDog for a different design. So the plan is to have a tripod robot which has 3 legs, probably not identical to this. I quite like to make them, well, probably out of CNC plywood or something, just overall lighter with 3D printed bushings and things. Probably a brushless motor on each leg that can move it quickly. And then the rest of the tripod will need another, so we'll have 9 motors in total, 3 per leg. One that does this sort of thing with the parallelogram, and then one that moves it that way, each leg, and then one that moves it around a round body. So we'll have 6 other motors, which I think will be DC motors. Some will be not back drivable in this fashion. So 3 of them I think will be rigid joints, and 3 of them will be compliant joints, as well as the 3 compliant joints, 1 in each leg for the jumping process. So, and I think then the plan is that it will lift itself up on 2 legs, and then the 3rd leg will jump up a little bit, and that's how it'll take steps. So it won't actually completely leave the ground, or at least it might be able to, but that's not the initial plan. It'll actually just be the 1 leg that jumps along. So it's a bit like how I had it on that counterbalance rig, so that the other 2 legs are actually lifting it, and then that one is jumping and taking the step. And the other DC motors are basically dealing with the other joints to kind of move 2 legs like that, so the back leg can jump along, and then they both move forward, and it does it again. And I think it could move in 6 directions doing it that way. It may be to turn on the spot as well, but we'd have to see how that works out. But that's still something that's in very much the early stages. I guess these are like the odd other videos that I do that lead to something, but it's a bit of R&D. And the same with the pneumatic cylinder. So yeah, I'd like to kind of theme things up. So I think it would be something based on War of the Worlds, the original H.G. Wells, 1953, was a radio show. There was a movie in 1953, a classic movie, not the remake with Tom Cruise, where they're like these tentacly creatures that walk like that. They were quite robust, things like that. And it was set in Woking in England, and in Woking town centre, there's a massive sculpture of a tripod. So it'd be good to sort of structure it like that. So it's got big shoulders and these big cross-braced things that can be linear actuators to push the legs. It's a much easier structure to build than a wishy-washy tentacle. So probably that, and then we can put like the sounds in there and a laser head thing, that whatever they had that shot people, and kind of theme it up. But I'd hope that it's not, there's no inverse kinematic model, because it's using this sort of compliant joints and forward kinematics. Probably not even that. It's probably just fudging numbers and having compliance. So I'd imagine that it would be sort of two episodes for the build and 2 more for making it work, maybe another one. So it'd be quite a short series. We're not going to carry on. OpenDog will carry on for many episodes. It'll be one of my 50-parters in the end, I'd have thought, if it in fact works well enough that we carry on. It's no, it's a modular thing. We could tear all the legs off and make compliant joints. I'm not planning to. I don't really want to do that. I quite like to always have that as a comparison, sort of like the traditional robotics. It's a rigid robot. You know exactly where its legs are moving, where its joints are, with the inverse kinematic model, because that's kind of the traditional view. And then have some other projects that are compliant and do a wacky thing as a contrast all the way along. So that's definitely a thing that's happening. But yeah, made quite quickly out of plywood and 3D printed bits and some bungee cord. Might get some springs. Yeah, probably put a Teensy in it, because it's got lots of high resolution analog ins that we can use to read all the joints. Probably use ODrive to control the springy leg. Whether I use that encoder to actually do position, I could use the encoder in velocity mode and put another encoder, an absolute positioning encoder, or just a high resolution pot on the actual joint between the motor and the joint, and then the springy bits in between. So that's definitely an option, because then we don't have to worry about homing the ODrives and then getting them exactly right. It's quite difficult when it's pulling a tendon, because there's load on the motor, so it doesn't always initialize properly, and just lots of other things I need to sort through how it's going to work. Yes, so let's talk about the pneumatics, which is coming up. So what have we got? Yes, Laser EQ, that video goes up. Then we've got breakfast machine. Oh, I can't remember what the schedule is. I'm quite well planned ahead at the moment. It's quite good. I believe that it's breakfast machine, or is it? Laser EQ, breakfast machine. Oh, let's look at the next breakfast machine. Let's do them in order. Right. Just get my preview back because I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, you can't see anything. It's the next breakfast machine video. Here it is. That's my hat. So, episode 1, of course, was how to make the perfect boiled egg, or thereabouts, and not break any plates. Episode 2, just going to put some more light on it somehow. Ugh. Breakfast machine 2 is being built at the moment. There's a lot of wire here. What we've got is obviously a toaster oven. So this is one of these little ovens, not a microwave, that's got top and bottom heating and a little tray that goes in. So we've got a servo on here, which opens the door, which works pretty well. We've got a servo on here with a cam that can set the timer. And then we've got these 2 servos with forks. And this is again on sliding rails, but I can't backdrive it because it's a worm gear gearbox. But this whole thing slides in and, you know, lifts the tray and grabs it and then throws the food out. And that's essentially what this one is. So this is the little controller for it, very similar to the egg making one. So we'll have a state machine again. There's no temperature sensing because we've got a thermostat on the oven which we can just set. So what will happen is you'll set it up. It can preheat the oven by turning the temperature up. So we'll have its tray out. You can have the door shut, heat the oven up. Then when it's done it for a couple of minutes, opens the door, puts the tray down, stops and lets you insert food. So you'll put a piece of bread on to make toast or American hot dogs or sausages or bacon or whatever you want. We can have a different program for each cooking time. Shoves it in, pops it down, then it can go and shut the door again, times however long it is to cook that piece of food, and then takes it out again and throws it out. So yeah, that's going to be breakfast machine 2. And all the CAD and code will be published again. So it's a very simple state machine with not too many other sensors, just some buttons for, you know, insert food, press red to continue. So that's coming up after that. Yes, so bit of a jumble of wires, looks better laid out. And then the eventual plan is that we have all of these modules. So we've got boiling foods and toasting foods so far. And then the plan is to have them all. Part 3 will be a robot arm. So what we'll probably have is a SCARA arm, which is one that has vertical axes that rotates and that rotates, that can move like that. And then you generally have some sort of linear slider that goes up and down with a gripper on the end so that it can move around, and it can put the eggs in, get the eggs from like an egg dispenser and put them in, and then it can also put sausages or toast in. We need to make a manipulator that will handle the different foods, which is a bit of a challenge, and some sort of fairly precision arm. So that'll sit in between the toasting and the boiling modules. There might be a tea making module so it can dip a tea bag in, and a water dispenser. And then what I want to do is put the whole thing on a massive carousel, like a giant Lazy Susan, so the whole thing rotates round. And then obviously the egg tips out, and then it rotates around again, and then the tray tips out, and it tips all the food onto the plate. So the robot arm puts it in and controls all the other modules. So I've used Arduino Megas in all the modules, so we've got loads of serial ports so it can communicate, like the master communicating with all of the slaves. Set all the timers for the different types of foods it drops in, and then basically when it's done, it spills them all out and makes the perfect Instagram breakfast, which I think is going to be the reveal video. Yes, so we're quite a way ahead with that. Pretty much all the motors work and the positions are set. I've just got to do the state machine and make the video. So that will be coming up as well. And obviously all these are early for channel members and early for patrons. Pretty much a week early at the moment. We're running quite well. Right, let's just check my chat. How are we doing? I've got no new messages in the chat. If that's wrong, tell me, but you probably can't if it's broken. Good. Yeah, we've got quite a few viewers. So if you've got any questions or you've got anything you want to see or anything, then you know, chuck a message in and we'll have a closer look. We've still got Tickle Me Elmo to talk about. I did post that for patrons. That is going to be an Easter project. So yes, the pneumatics. Let's get this pneumatic cylinder up here. I'm just going to put away the laser EQ. Somewhere over here. So OpenDog's quite a useful table. Right, let's pop that back over there. Yes, the pneumatic cylinders. They are really, really powerful. So the transformer, of course, had 2 in its legs, and it was right on the edge. We had to turn the compressor up to do exactly 120 psi because it wasn't powerful enough to lift at less than that. I think with a 63mm bore and 120 psi, each cylinder could lift 300 kilograms or something, and we had 2 of them. And that's because of all the tight leverage angles in the transformer. I had to push the body up, and I didn't think it was going to work, and it almost didn't, but it's all fine in the end. Excuse me. So yes, the pneumatic video is up early, hasn't gone out publicly yet. It goes out on Tuesday, which is another experimental video, of course, to see what we can do and inspire people's imaginations. If you've got any, what I'd like to do is a giant walking robot that's not big and underwhelming, that's actually something that's good. So like a giant walking T-Rex or something like that. So yeah, so the cylinders are massively powerful. That's a really good thing. Obviously, air isn't as efficient to store as electricity and batteries. But if you don't mind having a trailing cable and plugging it into a big compressor, you can get a lot of power for your money, really. Hydraulics, again, are another thing completely, which it becomes very much more expensive and a lot to handle. The hydraulics we used in Hulkbuster with Colin Furze really weren't that easy to control, apart from turning them on and off, because they're not really proper hydraulic pumps. So there's quite a lot to doing hydraulics properly. Anyway, we're about to, when I've done breakfast making machine, I'm back to this. So we've got check valves now. So these are one-way valves, quarter-inch BSP through connector thing. Got a few of them. So the plan is to use those on the pressure inlets of both of these solenoids to start with, which means air can't come back. So where we had that problem of creeping, where we've got one side of the cylinder is higher capacity because it hasn't got the rod in it, and it was basically pushing more force that way, and the air's, I think, coming back through here, all the way back through the T-junction I had and back into the other side. When I separated out the air sources, it couldn't do that, but then we may get a pressure imbalance, which was weird. So we get the check valves instead, which hopefully mean the air can't come back, and also you can't compress as much air because you haven't got a giant reservoir attached to each side. So air stops coming back here. So pushing this side back, there's much less air to compress and not a big reservoir to compress it into. So it should make the cylinder much more rigid when it's holding with both valves on, and it should stop it creeping. And then the plan after that is to use the release valves instead of putting G-clamps on them like we did in the video, is to have proportional valves made of plumbing accessories, like those quarter turn things, but with probably a geared servo, or a servo of additional gears, so we can limit the amount that comes out, which means we can control the speed, and if we're lucky, do acceleration curves. So that's all to be experimented with in the next video. It's very hacky. I mean, it's not great at all. We should have MOSFETs switching the valves. We can have proportional input valves, but I actually don't think we need them. I think we only need proportional on the output, which saves another 2 proportional valves. But that's all to be experimented with. And if I can make this move as well as, at least for its scale, as well as an electric actuator, that's very useful. So what I'd like to do is, you know, a giant robot that can walk well. It probably won't be dynamically stable, but it'll at least be able to do various things and various motions. The Hacksmith is building an Aliens power loader in real life. So far, they've made one arm. Not sure if he's planning to walk in it, but it'll be very difficult, I think. So I quite fancy having a go at another exosuit that's ludicrously big with cylinders like that, like up the back of it, and see if I can actually walk in it. There's some other challenges as I experienced with the other exosuit projects, but it'll be quite a fun thing to do, I think. A bit of a challenge, but we'll see how it goes. Right, where are we now? Why don't I use Raspberry Pis to send serial commands to the Arduinos. I could do, but I'm not sure what project you're talking about. So for OpenDog or some other robot, I guess you could use a Raspberry Pi or any computer really, and you could send the data straight to the O drives, I suppose. I mean, eventually what will probably happen is with OpenDog, if there's some computing platform on board, there will be an overall higher level computing platform that runs, vision recognition and other stuff like that, potentially a web interface or something. I don't know, whatever it is, that then tells the Teensy or the Teensy is just really another Arduino type of thing, another microcontroller, which tells that where to make the robot go. But for now, what I want is the real-time kind of microcontroller running on hardware instead of having that the operating system layer in between the code and the hardware, which is why I generally don't use Raspberry Pis very much, unless you need something like speech or vision recognition and you need something to plug a webcam in that's can do that. Whereas your general microcontrollers don't, unless they're very they're programmed with a specialist thing that grabs frame data and processes it. So yeah, it may well have something on, probably not a Raspberry Pi, something higher powerful, higher powered than that. But yeah, you could. There's no reason you can't use both in a project or use one or the other. You could communicate directly with the O drives over USB from a Raspberry Pi, but I'm not sure how many issues that's going to cause with USB hubs and them all coming up in the right order and having the right addresses and things. Chucking the data out to a serial port straight to the O drive attached to that serial port seems like it might be less frustrating. So, but I haven't tried it, in fact. So there you go. Yeah, for OpenDog. All right. So yeah, could have. You could make it Raspberry Pi based, I guess, and code it all in Python or some other language. But for now, a microcontroller will do for what I'm doing. But yeah, as I say, could have a higher powered computing platform on board. Right, collaborations. I'm just working my way through the comments here. Yes, there are. So what have I got? Yes, so there's basically 2019, so year of collaborations. So yes, there's going to be stuff going on. There's an event called Makers Central, which is coming up in May, which I was at last year at Birmingham NEC. There's a rumour that Ivan Miranda might be coming over for that, so we're hoping to do a collaboration while he's here. I'm also hoping to bring some other YouTubers in, which might include Tom Stanton and potentially some others to do a big challenge while we're doing that. I also have an Easter project coming up, which is being talked about, but we haven't done anything yet, which is for Tickle Me Elmo, to make a hacked Tickle Me Elmo. And I believe it's going to be Trajectory Me Elmo, where we're going to make some sort of firing device that fires Easter eggs. And you say to Elmo, how far do you want it to go? And he calculates the trajectory and the force. Either controls the machine automatically or tells you, and then you set the angle. And that's happening with a YouTuber called The Woodgineer. The Woodgineer, who's quite small, but he's a good friend of mine, and he's quite good on video, so that's a good one. There's potentially others as well, but nothing's actually set in stone. But I quite like to sort of bring more personality into the channel, do some funnier stuff, some more offbeat projects. So there are various plans whizzing around that I can't comment on yet. But yes, there will be collaborations, because collaborations are good, is the answer to that one. Will I ever make a four-legged dog using jumping legs? I suppose there's no reason I couldn't. I haven't planned to, purely because I don't want it to overshadow OpenDog. It may work better. We'll see how 3 legs goes. But yeah, there's no reason I couldn't. It's just I really want to get OpenDog to do something reasonable before I go and make another 4-legged robot. But yeah, we could do maybe a smaller one, or at least lighter weight. But yeah. Right. Yeah, Hacksmith's so his alien power loader arm is hydraulic. Have a look at. I think the video might be up, or it's coming out very shortly. But yeah, it's going to have to be attached to a hydraulic power pack. I mean, the amount of hydraulic throughput you need, or an engine. So if you look at Matt Denton's Mantis robot, the Hexapod robot, he's got 18 cylinders there, and it's pretty quick. But when they're all moving at once, he's still got I think 140 liters throughput a minute of hydraulic fluid, and it's still quite big and underwhelming because it's quite slow. I mean, it's an engineering masterpiece, but it's, you know, to actually walk and dynamically take steps, the amount of hydraulic throughput you would need is going to be quite phenomenal, plus the control and just everything else. Obviously, Alien Power Loader wasn't a real thing in the movie. It was balanced on a massive balance beam, and it was passively driven by Sigourney Weaver's legs. You know, it wasn't a real machine. So I don't know, but the Hacksmiths built one arm, but they have to lift it on an engine hoist because it's too heavy and it's really slow at the moment. So I don't know what, you know, if they build the whole thing, whether it will really work or what the plan is, but we'll have to see how it goes. I would personally go for pneumatics, a lot of big air reservoirs, and you know, at least you get the decompression of air pushes it really quick, if nothing else. But we don't know. So there we go. Yeah, I'd imagine it will need an engine on its back if it is hydraulic, though. But it's still pushing it. Yeah, agree with the USB comment probably. But yeah, I haven't tried it. It probably works. I don't know. I'd rather just go UART serial and that, you know, on microcontroller hardware running as fast as it can, and that pretty much seems quite reliable. Even some of OpenDog is on software serial, and that still works for now. Will YouTube Article 13 affect anything for you? I don't know, quite honestly. I don't think it will, because I believe it's mostly around some EU law and copyright. I don't tend to do anything that's copyrighted. I mean, you could say Iron Man, I don't own the copyright, but then it's not actually someone else's copyright, like taking, you know, doing a reaction video, for instance, and actually using someone else's footage. So I don't think so. You know, most of my stuff is original content, so I don't think it'll be so much of an issue as like people who do parodies and things. But that's just, yeah, we'll have to see. There's a lot of stuff going on, you know, with Brexit and stuff as well, and who knows what's going to happen with IP laws generally. But most of my stuff is of course original content, so I don't think it'll cause me too many problems with any luck. Right. I'm not sure what the last comment is. Alignment bytes. Not sure who that's, but I've lost track of the conversation. Oh yes, the random glitches and delays. Right. Yeah, I mean, USB is quite possible. Yeah, there is a Python utility that runs over USB to configure the O drive, but you can send all the same commands as you do with UART. So yeah, you could write a Python, and it's open source, so you could just write a Python script that sends all the commands. It's just whether I guess it detects all the O drives in the right order. I don't think they've got fixed addresses. If I've only ever connected one with USB, it just says O drive 1, I get all 0, and I guess if you connect more, they come up 2 and 3 and things. And whether I guess they'd always come up once they've been detected once, probably, but I don't know. It's a question for the O drive Discord, I think. Right. So that's pneumatics. I'm also going to go, and hopefully I'm going to visit Lincoln Electric, who gave me my welder, to their excellence centre in Sheffield, and they're going to teach me to weld, but probably MIG or TIG, and I'll then upgrade the welder to one of those. Stick welding's not that fantastic. It's very messy as well. So the plan is to be better at doing metal projects. So in terms of building another exosuit walking thing, there'll be kind of welded steel in it, and it won't just be 3D print screwed on wood, which will be helpful. So that's definitely a thing that I want to do as well. And I've got some other ideas for vehicle projects, stuff approaching more stuff Colin Furze does, but with electronics and control, like electric steering and stuff, to do those sorts of projects as well. So I'm hoping to diversify quite a bit more from, you know, a thing built in my back bedroom basically, and do some bigger, faster projects as well. But I really want to be diverse, where it's not just a fast thing with a motor on it. It's a thing that's got some other electronics and control on it as well. So yeah, that's definitely a strategy for the channel for this year as well. What else are we doing? So I've mentioned Elmo Trajectory Me Elmo, the Easter egg. So the plan is he sits on some sort of cannon, fires the Easter eggs, and then he laughs at it afterwards. Where's his? Yeah. So that's easy to hack. But what we want to do is probably put servos in his arms so he can point and things. Maybe in his mouth. I'm not sure. and he'll probably almost definitely have speech recognition. Probably going to use My Robot Lab to do that, and speech synthesis. So you'll be able to say Elmo, 25 meters, and he'll say 3.6 degrees, whatever he does. Yeah, so that's one of the things. What else? Oh yeah, so seasonal projects. Definitely doing something for Easter. For Halloween, I'd like to build a ghost train, or at least a haunted house, and it'll be like the smallest ghost train in the world, something like that. Obviously, we need to weld some metal up to make track potentially for things like that. And also, I'm starting the next Christmas project. So if anyone's got any ideas, so the plan is so giant Lego has been quite popular, of course, in my channel and in Matt Denson's channel, where he makes all the classic kits 5 times bigger, like the forklift truck and the bulldozer. So I'm going to do a giant Lego 3D printed Christmas, and I'm going to start it soon because I want to make a 6-foot Christmas tree that's made out of giant Lego bricks, 3D printed, and then it's, you know, giant Lego with lights in and all that good stuff. But I'd also like to do some other stuff that would go down well next Christmas. This is for, we start now, it might just be done in time. So we'll probably dedicate 1 or 2 printers to it all year to make it. So if you've got any other ideas that you'd like to see next Christmas made of giant Lego, in the meantime, I will be doing more giant Lego projects. So what I've got here is 2 rolls of filaments, one lovely blue and one neon orange. And the plan is to do some Lego minifigures, like the one standing behind me, but maybe in different sizes. I think he's about 7 times scale. So, but the plan is, yeah, to have to do the Lego guy, the blue and orange is for the Lego guy from the Lego movie, to do him, but make him robotic and animatronic, so his arms and legs and his head move, and then have him do loads of stuff like potentially a man who hinges at the waist and he can lean on a little electric skateboard, but probably dynamically balanced with an inertial measurement unit in side to side, and make a radio controlled, probably a bigger minifigure on a Lego skateboard that can ride around by radio control. Potentially a paragliding one as well, with a power kite and a rotor on his back. And if you can think of any others that, I mean, they can't do much because the legs don't, you know, he won't walk along. But anything else that's like an action dude, giant Lego movie minifigure. There's a new Lego movie coming out early February. Isn't sponsored, but I'm just doing it because it's a good time to do it, and everyone likes giant Lego. And there'll be some electronics and some control, inertial measurement unit potentially, brushless motor, you know. So that's definitely one of the plans as well. So animatronic Lego minifigures, and I guess any other Lego City stuff, like you could do the vehicles and things like that, and various things. If I don't know how interesting that'll be, but ones that work with characters that work, that animatronic, at least they turn their head and. But something like, you know, the paragliding guy can move his arms to pull the strings on the kite, radio control. Skateboarding guy bends and he balances. What else can we do? Think of ideas. Send ideas in on a postcard. Yeah, so that's another thing that's coming. And I'm going to be doing the next one. Hopefully the first one, the skateboarding one. Need to buy some stuff, but it'll be coming up in a few weeks. Hopefully by the end of February is the plan. So I've got to turn that filament into a minifigure and stick high-vis tape on and turn him into that character. So that's another thing. And if there's anything else giant Lego you can think of like that, let me know. Maybe we'll do it. Right, what have we got here? Right, yes, I have thought about making a pneumatic flight simulator platform because those cylinders are really powerful. If you can position them accurately and do acceleration curves, then yes, you could build quite a good platform. So obviously the Portsmouth University hoverbike project we did last year was a bit lame because it was passive. So it could be something like that that moves itself and it's got force feedback, so the controls actually move the cylinders. Or it could be a proper one of those, what is it called, a Stuart platform with 6 cylinders in a V that moves the whole thing round. The air throughput would be quite massive, so we need quite a big compressor. But yeah, it's the sort of thing that you could do quite cheaply. But you could at least have a pitch and roll controls and have it sat on a central thing and hinge around, and then that would hold the person's weight up, which would require less power. So yes, I have thought about it. Don't know if I'll do it. We'll see how it goes. But that's kind of a good application, or some other sort of simulator platform or something that can move a person. So yes, I have. Right, where are we now? Larger 3D printer. Yeah, so from the point of view, the Taz is quite big. I'm not really into building 3D printers. I guess I could do, but um, so Matt Denton with his giant Lego, he found some of the long girders don't fit, but he just made two halves and then bolted them together, and that was about it. So from the point of view of a minifig, I don't really need any bigger pieces. Depends how big I make it, I suppose. But the plan is it'll all fit on the Taz bed, and then we'll just, stick multiple parts together. Yeah, you could make a bigger printer, but I'm not really into making printers, so it's yeah. I guess there's not really a reason other than I just don't really want to. The black belt thing's quite good though, where it prints continuous parts. But again, that's another whole thing. So yeah, for now I'll just make do and make the bricks smaller and stick them together probably. Yeah. Right. Yeah, Lego Batman. Yeah, so I suppose the Lego superheroes could be quite good to do and do the accessories that go with them. Maybe Lego Batman should be the paragliding guy with some sort of bat flying thing. I guess we could put one on a drone. We could make the Batwing with Lego Batman. That's a good idea. Or something like that. Good idea. And other characters. I haven't actually seen Lego the movie or Lego the Batman movie or whatever it is. So yeah, maybe I should watch them. Seen the trailer, that's about it. But I guess there's all sorts of characters and franchises. So we could do, instead of me dressing as Batman or whoever it is, you could do the giant Lego version of that licensed Lego set. That's a good idea. I like it. A Lego rocket. Yeah, so 2 comments there about rockets. I intend to revisit the rocket. I haven't done it. At some point I probably will. I'd like to get the EDFs and put them on, each one on a gimbal, and have 3 of them and try and make it hover that way. But I don't know how well that'll work. So it'll probably be some episodes trying. Essentially, it's a fancy tricopter. So I'll probably make the base first with the batteries, and then stick the long rocket on the top of it and try and balance. And then it's less to balance because it's lighter. So it's kind of cheating, really. Anyway, it becomes a drone, an EDF drone at the end of the day. I'm not sure how. Like, the videos did quite well, but everyone just said it's a drone, which is kind of true. But it's more about the fun collaboration, I think. So Thomas Stanton's already done his SpaceX with thrust vectoring, which worked pretty well. So I don't know if there's anything left in the challenge really. I should do it really just because I've still got all the parts left, and I quite like to make it work, I suppose. But yeah, it's on. I've got like a big board, a Trello board, which is like these virtual cards. It's in there. I just haven't actually done anything apart from I've still got all the parts in a box. So yeah. Right. Partnering with Lego. I think partnering with Lego, unless we made OpenDog out of actual Lego, I suppose that's possible. But I don't think they're up for to have me do large scale Lego. And also, it's quite hard to make OpenDog out of at least big bits of Lego because it's hard to get all the joints and stuff. So you can make one out of actual Lego, I suppose, or another dog robot. Not sure if there's any out there. Maybe. But yeah, so probably another entire project. Right, just for Scott's benefit, what happened to Bumblebee? I've still got it, but basically it can never be seen again. Contractually, it has to be dismantled. Hence, the pneumatic cylinder's actually out of it. That's what I was saying. But yes, it can't ever be seen. I'm not allowed to go around Comic Cons doing Transformer demos. Contractually, it's finished with, and it must never be seen again. So it has to be dismantled, but the parts can be reused, is the easy answer to that. Yeah, so it depends. The sponsor build. So I've still got BB9E, and Colin's still got Hulkbuster. But they were different. Obviously, I was eBay and Disney. This one is Paramount. Their contracts are entirely different, so they don't want me to go round. Technically they own it, I think, but they said they don't really want it delivered to the Hammersmith office, so reuse the parts. But that's it. But yeah, after the promo's done, that's it. Also, the teaser video that had their trailer footage in has to be deleted in 3 or 6 months contractually as well. So they're quite keen on cleaning up their IP and not leaving anything behind. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't get to keep it, but it's impractical to keep anyway. It's still in the gazebo in the garden until I've finished dismantling it. But I don't really have storage for that thing the size of a car, unfortunately. Anyway, so that's it. It's going to be the end of it, unfortunately. So there we go. But yeah, it depends contract to contract what it is. Obviously, the ad reads I've been doing in videos recently for Squarespace and Skillshare, they don't care. They just want a placement in one of my videos that hopefully does well. So all of those things are my own that I can do what I want with. So again, that's a different contract. So yeah. So I have come to the end of my list. Oh, I've got one more, which is potentially a dexterous torso. So those of you who remember me talking about the Zelda Guardian project from last year, which was going to be the Zelda Guardian robot from Breath of the Wild, that project's cancelled because the person I was collaborating with is emigrating. So I'm going to reuse that base at some point. I was going to start it already, but I kind of haven't, and I'm not sure if I want to. But the idea was to have a human torso, a dexterous torso that could drive around on this base with a carousel, and it can mix cocktails and do DJing. I need to do another sort of like one-off episode experimenting with animatronic joints once I've got up to speed on using the lathe with aluminium pieces to make cable-driven animatronic joints where the motors all could be central, driven by Bowden cables. That's another little R&D video, and at that point I'll decide what to do. I think could be lead screws and ball screws in the joints, but the motors and things tend to make the joints heavy, so there's another whole thing. I don't want to just repeat InMove. I do want to do something else that's got metal in it, and it's not just servos. So that's another whole potential project. There's almost too many projects and not enough time, and I really need to go about this in a way where it's kind of planned and everything's done properly, rather than just trying to start loads of projects at once. And as I said at the beginning, I'm quite enjoying having the different videos every week. A breakfast making machine, and another one 4 weeks later, and another one a bit after that that's slightly different, and then some experiments with a leg, and then a music project. So it's quite good. I think the only consistent thing that goes on for a long time will be OpenDog, which will get pushed as far as it can. So yeah, that's general strategy at the moment. Yeah, so that could be. Oh, wait a second. Right. Oh, there's quite a few comments. A very large hex spider walker. I've considered it. I thought about doing an electric one, but there's quite a lot of hexapods out. I think 3 legs is more of a challenge, which is why I'm doing 3 legs. So otherwise, they're pretty much, for a large one, it's statically stable, and then it's just another inverse kinematic project, and that's about it. So I think Matt's got the Guinness World Record for the largest hexapod, so I don't think we can top that, really. What did Colin do with the TIE fighter in the park? I think it's still there. I'm not sure. I think they had to move it, but I think it's in the sculpture garden at Burley Park or Burley House. Not sure what happens eventually, but yeah, the contract for that was that he keeps it, so I think he can sell it if he wants. As far as I know, it's still there. Yeah, Star Wars bartender droid. I guess it could be a Star Wars bartender droid instead of, it was going to be a Daft Punk DJ bar robot thing with like a visor. But we'll see. If I do it around the time Star Wars comes out, maybe I'll do that. What's a Star Wars bartender droid though? I'll have to see if there's a character in Episode 9. Really, you never know, or a good character. Yeah. Otherwise, I don't know. I think like the Daft Punk Tron themed thing might be quite good. There you go. Yes. Have I ever thought about getting a workshop? Yes, multiple times. Something just as big as that gazebo I have for Transformers would be all right. It just means I have to travel to work instead of working from home and stay there all day. And Ivan's cold at the moment because it's winter, and then you've got to heat a massive place. Generally, those industrial units aren't that insulated, so you end up sitting in the cold. It'd be useful. I probably should just sell this house and buy a house with more outside space and have a shed like Colin's would be more useful. For now, I'll make do with my little shed, which needs clearing and loads of scrap wood taking out, which is good enough for doing a little bit of welding. Should be able to fit a bandsaw and a couple of other tools in there. That'll do would be fine. And in the summer, we'll just work outdoors or under a gazebo. But yeah, long-term plan would be to get a different property, but that's not something I'm going to do immediately. Yeah. There aren't any more plans for Robot X, I'm afraid. He's still there. I've been taking servos off his arms for the breakfast making machine. I think if I'm doing another bipedal robot, it'll be I'll go and use ball screws and O drives. I mean that hardware is actually okay. It's just still actually quite hard to do. So that's why I went to 4 legs, and that's quite hard to do. So I think I'm not going to go and make another bipedal robot for the sake of it. If I do, it'll be giant and statically stable. I don't know. We'll see how we get on with a faster processor, the Teensy, and all the O drives and the accuracy that brings to OpenDog. And if we can make that dynamically stable easily enough, and the forward motion dynamically stable, then maybe I will. But if I do another bipedal robot, it'll be a complete rebuild, I think, is the answer to that one. Do I still work with the Makerspace? Well, I'm still a trustee of Southampton Makerspace. I haven't been down for almost all the time I did Transformers at the end of last year. So I still go down there, well, at least in theory, go down there sometimes on the open nights, which are Tuesdays. Won't be there this week, and I won't be there next week. Yeah, that's the plan anyway. I don't really use that space for any of my own projects. So I generally go there to help other people with their projects. But yeah, I've been out of it for a bit with all these big projects. So yeah. There we go. I'll be at Maker Central, which will hopefully will have a Makerspace stand, which I might hang around. I think I've got my own space again this year, which will be in Birmingham NEC, which I think is somewhere mid-May. So there'll be there's a relationship. I do other events like Hacksotten, which is coming up in Southampton again, which is in conjunction with the Makerspace and other groups. So sort of loosely involved, I guess. Any particular servos? Yes, so it depends where you are in the world. So I found some servos that are very good that I've just used in the breakfast making machine, and I'll be using for the pneumatic valves. Challenge is they're like no brands. So they came from an eBay seller called Blacksmith Industries or something. 20 kilogram servos. They've got just the no label on them though. They've just got this red thing. And so when normally a servo, if you just put the horn on and back drive it, there's a stop and they only do 180 degrees. If you back drive these, they just go round and round and round. But when you use them, they only turn 180 degrees like a normal servo. So they've got something else other than a pot in there. And if you do power them up and hold the position and you try and drive them, you don't get that annoying chattering sound. So I'm not quite sure how they work. But yeah, 20 kilograms. They seem rock solid. And they don't make that annoying sound. At least not on the load I've put on them. So yeah, not quite sure what they are though, unfortunately. But there you go. They might have some sort of encoder in there or something special. I'm not really sure. I'm not even sure if they're digital or analog servos or what. It's really hard to say. And to make matters harder, I didn't actually buy those. They sent me those instead of the 15 kilogram ones I normally buy because they didn't have any. So I don't even know what they are. So sorry, that's not very helpful. But yeah, I think it's Blacksmith Industries or something like that on eBay. It's a UK company, so yeah. Other than that, the big high-tech ones. Although I've had a couple of those fail recently, so I'm not sure about them. I think I'll probably use some more of these things, the Metal Gear ones, if I can find, in fact, what they are. So if I have any more information, I'll let you know. Oh, good, you've seen them. Yep. Yeah, I don't. If you can find out what they are, then let me know. Yeah. But yeah, they're just like no name, but they seem pretty decent. So that's good. So yeah, all right. But otherwise, I mean, basically it's just a geared motor with feedback and you can't adjust the PID parameters. So generally I like to just use a motor and a pot and then you can have anything you want really. Like my big RC servo project with the wiper motor. So it depends. I mean, servos are useful for the point of view of saving labor to put them in machines like the breakfast making machine where you just want to move a thing, just use a servo, yeah. So I guess like top end the Dynamixels, I've never used those either, but apparently they're very good and do multi turns, and can still go back multiple turns. So that's a whole other thing though. So yeah, generally like to DIY things if I need a more powerful motor so that I've got some YouTube content rather than just spend £600 on a Dynamixel, which is a silly idea. So yeah, I think I'm going to use these in my animatronic minifigure, which is going to be a bit bigger than that, and at least hinge at the waist to start with. So if I can track down what they are. Right. Yes, VR projects. That's another thing that's going on. There is another virtual reality project going on with Portsmouth University at the moment, and I intend to get some updates to give to patrons and YouTube channel members. So essentially, it's the Fighting Robot project. It's a boxing glove robot with 2 pneumatic punching arms, and it drives around on a wheelchair base. And the students, so last year we did hoverbike, but it wasn't very thrilling because it was a bit slow moving. And when you look at someone in VR on a hoverbike, you just see someone. It's not very exciting. Whereas this is going to be a game where you fight a robot in virtual reality, but its motions attraction the physical robot, which is controlled by the game. So when you get hit by the virtual robot, the real robot punches you, and you've got like a shield and a stick to fight with, which are physical and virtual. And so when you watch this person, when you're not in virtual reality, it's more fun because you're seeing a person fighting a physical robot. So that's going on. I don't have any other personal plans for VR projects. I'd like to do something else like the Lego Hyper Reality Blaster with augmented reality. I just don't know what. But yeah, I haven't powered on my Vive for ages, unfortunately. So I think that generally virtual reality videos aren't viewed very well because of the same reason, that it's hard to experience what the person's experiencing because it's so immersive. So the virtual reality experience is amazing when you're in virtual reality, but everyone watching it's not that good. So it's hard to convey that unless you've got that augmented side of it where, it's like, how does that work, shooting the virtual targets and then knocking down physical targets? So I guess that video didn't do too bad, but it's coming up with those ideas really to interface to the real world. So yeah, any ideas, let me know, and we'll do something like that. But not doing any pure VR projects. And the students are doing the one at the uni, so I'll just be making the video. The robot was built last year. There were some posts on my Patreon wall, but I'll be getting some more pictures and video, hopefully, to do some sort of update on that. Otherwise, the videos will be out. I think they've got to finish by March again, so it's not that long, actually, till the whole thing will be done. But hopefully that'll be a good project, and it should be quite viral. There are various other augmented or virtual reality projects, like a robot arm that brings a piece of wood round, so someone in virtual reality, and when they touch the wall, a robot shoots around and puts the wall there for them. If they touch a control panel, it comes and puts it there. So it's a bit like that, but fighting. So it should be quite good, hopefully. And we've called the robot Judy because of Punch and Judy. Yeah. Cosplay. I haven't done any cosplays for ages. Only Batman, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know really. I think going back to collaborations, there was a question from earlier. I think it might be better to, if I'm going to do cosplay stuff, to get someone else to do the cosplay and then make a prop or something like a blaster or something with 3D printing and electronics and CNC and maybe laser cutting in, and build the prop and then showcase it with a person who's done a cosplay. I think that would be a better strategy than me trying to make the whole thing. You never know. Although, I don't know really. I'd rather be doing robotics, I suppose, but it doesn't mean we can't do other themed things. But doing a whole cosplay tends to be a lot of multiple parts to do it well, at least when it's armor and stuff like that. Batman wasn't that popular. We could do something better or something else completely different. It's just hard to find the trends that are going to get the views. And once you've started it, you've kind of got to finish it. So if it doesn't do well, then it leaves you with a 10-part series or something that you don't want to do. So there you go. Yeah, I have had thoughts about an intern to help with the projects, maybe to write software for OpenDog, but I'm not sure what to do about that at the moment. I'm going to see how well I can do it first. Then I may well consider it. But again, it's finding the right person who can actually do it, and whether it's just better that I do it and then write the software, make videos about it, and it takes longer. Or whether it's even possible to control OpenDog properly to work in a dynamic fashion, or whether it's not, or whether then we just need to rebuild hardware again. That's a thing. But otherwise, it's hard, I guess, to try and replace yourself, or at least find someone who can do the projects. I've been making this sort of stuff for a long time, producing that video every week. It's hard to find other people who can work as quick and get it right first time. So unless you've got a lot of slack to allow that person to do another whole project in the background, you're almost better just doing collaborations with other channels, because then they're producing their own content. You don't have to pay them. ultimately. And if they don't do it, then they don't produce content for their own channel. So I think that collaborations is a far better way to do it than actually having a full-time employee. Hacksmith's got 10 people there, and they still don't produce many more videos. So yeah, I don't know how efficient that gets. Right, where are we here? Right, helmets and cosplay. I'm not sure if they are top notch. What did I do? There was a helmet, the Hulkbuster, I suppose, Iron Man, which was handmade. That wasn't even 3D printed. Bender's head, but yeah, I could do. I suppose I could do parts of a cosplay if there's a movie or a game coming up that specifically needs something. But I think it has to have some electronics or intelligence in it, or some animatronics. I quite like to do an animatronic head, like a creature effects head with eyes and things that move, but just finding the right character that's going to be a popular thing, and then making skins and sculpting and clay and mess. So yeah, there's a few projects like that. So projects for air muscles. No, I've got an air muscle that I pulled out during that pneumatics video that's in a box. They're not that cheap, actually. You can make them. But yeah, I don't know really. I'm not really keen on pneumatics unless I really need to move a lot of force, because the air muscle will do 20 kilograms, but the ball screws will easily do more than that. Push ample, and they're more accurate. So, and they're not that much more expensive. At least buying air muscles off the shelf aren't really that cheap. So, yeah, they're interesting, but it could be good for a compliant robot potentially. But I still like to be to measure the compliance, which is quite difficult to do with air muscles because you don't really know how much it's stretching. I suppose you can measure the pressure and then measure where the joint moves to, but you have to have those two references. So it's a bit of a tricky one, really. I don't have any immediate use, and especially when you have to then drive it with air that you've got to carry around or whatever. Yep, OpenDog is a table. Talks quite a bit about OpenDog. I mean, there's not really any updates, just to recap on that. For Scott's benefit. So there is some at the start, but yeah, we're basically waiting for ODrive firmware and metal parts to turn up, and then I'll be doing videos when it's there's something substantial. Wintergarten, he's the guy with the big the ball machine, right, and the big windy handle. So yeah, potentially collaborations that are really involved in other countries are challenging. And I really prefer the ones that were challenges, like the Ivan Miranda Rocket Challenge. Got potentially another one, as I said earlier, for when people are over for Maker Fair, for Maker Central, which is going to be a challenge. So it's not going to be just us both building something. And I guess that's the thing with the collaborations I've done with Colin. It's all very much, he's the guy who does the metal, I do the CAD and electronics and 3D printing parts, and that's the collaboration. Whereas if it's a challenge, you both get to be a bit more diverse and approach things in a different way and try and produce something. So obviously with Ivan, we both did 3D printing, but I'd like to do some challenge collaborations when I've got my welding sorted and things like that. One of those might be with Colin. Shouldn't really say right now because we haven't arranged it, but there are ideas to have more like challenge collaborations where you challenge someone else, and then you can obviously, if it is another country, you can build your thing, ship it out there, go there, do the challenge. It's much easier to make the video than having to go there and work on the thing with someone. So I think that's a much better way to do things, and I quite like to have my channel being quite diverse, where I do everything from electronics control, 3D printing, CNC, the woods, the metal, the welding, potentially engines and things in the future, or at least high power electric traction and so on. So I can do the whole range. And then if I compete with someone like Colin doing a vehicle project or something, you've got that diverse range and you're not pigeonholed into doing just the CAD or the control system or something like that. So I think that's my take on collaborations, really. That's where I'd like to be. Doesn't mean I won't do collaborations where we both work on something, but it has to be someone local, really, who's free a lot. So yeah, the Trajectory Me Elmo is both of us building the same thing, which will be coming up. That's the Easter project. So there we go. So these normally last an hour. We've just done just over an hour, which is good. I'm still here. If anyone's got any more questions, I've run out of things on my list. And I think I've pretty much talked about all the projects, which is quite a lot of stuff. There's quite a lot of stuff coming up and quite a lot more diversity. In the basic plan is to have diverse projects, because when I watch channels like Colin's channel or Ivan's channel, and I go, all right, it's like 4 p.m. on a Thursday, let's see what crazy thing Colin's done this week. I'd like people to come to my channel for that, and not just to go just because they're following OpenDog, and then have a different thing every week that people will watch regardless of what it is, because they want to see what I've done. So I think that's a good way to drive more views as well than have like these 50-part series that last 2 years and you know exactly what's coming, pretty much. So there we go. Can I tell you about my workshop? Well, my workshop is basically what you see on video. There is, so it's this room, and there's a table that I do electronics on. There's the place where the CNC machine is, and where myself and Kyla presented the Transformer videos. That, in fact, isn't a workshop. It's a set built in one end of my lounge. If you look for I've got a welder learning to weld in my new shed video. It hasn't had many views. You probably haven't seen it, but it was revealed in there that, in fact, the workshop wasn't a real workshop, and that's why I needed a shed to make mess and noise in, because it's my lounge. So that is just OSB boards, and it's built into one end, and it's, I've got that box where the CNC machine is because there was nowhere else to put it, but I actually don't have a proper workshop, and that's why we built Bumblebee in a tent in the garden. And we started in the lounge facing the workshop set, which is why there's like a white ceiling and you can see into my hallway in those videos. And then we had to go outside because it's too big. So yeah, I don't actually have a proper workshop. So tools and things are dotted around. I've got my spare bedroom, has all the 3D printers in. This room, of course, is my normal video presenting room, which is a like loft conversion room. The exosuit was at the other end of this room. And then the CNC's done in this fake workshop. So that's basically it. So yeah, someone earlier said, should I get a workshop like Ivan Miranda? And yes, I probably should, but it's just another commercial challenge, as well as having to commute to a workshop, which I don't really want to do when I can just walk downstairs. So that's pretty much it. And people ask for these workshop tours all the time and don't really have anything to show other than the set framed in, so you can't see around the edges, and this room that you see all the time. That's it, really. Yeah. Work from home. So ideally, yes, I was saying earlier, I'd sell the house and have more outside space and have a shed like Colin's and a garage, which would pretty much solve it, I think. At least it could be heated and be warm, and have, compartments that are heated that you do specific things in that have got insulation, rather than one massive place with a tin roof that's freezing and boiling in the summer, which is what you tend to get for commercial units. Yeah, so that's the answer to that one, I'm afraid. A nice, double garage would be good. Unfortunately, I don't have one. Put a CNC in there, insulate it, have heating, put machine tools in there, all of that stuff. 3D printers in a spare room, and then, some other wooden shed for other bits and pieces and putting big projects together. And one of those sliding roofs like Colin's got that covers everything. That'd be useful, instead of gazebos, which are getting torn to shreds in 30-mile-an-hour winds at the moment, but that's another matter. So yeah, all right, good. If there's any other questions, you can, of course, post on my Patreon wall, or send me messages, or on my YouTube channel members community wall. a project room, yeah, I'd love I mean, most of the stuff is around that. My lounge has got, like the droids and all the skateboards and that stuff is like all around the TV, and all that stuff is there. There's all these robots stacked up, but yeah, I'm running out of space. Some things don't get kept, like the exosuit legs are still up the other ends, but they're in pieces. This thing, once I've made another type of leg, or the 3 legs out of plywood, will be dismantled, and I'll take all the 2020 back for another project, and chuck all the 3D prints away, take all the bearings back out. Quite a lot of parts, stacked up from Transformers that I've started to strip out, so there's going to be more of that to put somewhere as well. Be using the wheels in another project. Maybe it's a vehicle challenge project. But yeah, there you go. But yeah, it would be good to have storage. And I think Colin has got all his projects in 40-foot containers. But how long do you pay to keep the stuff? Is a good question. So unless it's going to come out again and be used, and lots of stuff isn't, but it's just too hard to destroy. So need a museum, really. Yeah, all right, good. I think we're getting to the end. Yeah, 630,000 subscribers. It's been pretty slow recently, actually, but hopefully the diversification this year will drive more subscribers. Yeah, I can't quite remember when it was 35k. I remember when it was about 50, and I think that's when I first started Patreon. That was about 4 years ago. So I guess it's come on all right. But yeah, it's not. I'm nowhere near a million, and I'm not likely to be there for many years at this rate. So let's do diversify content and do more personality stuff with collaborations and stuff that keeps people coming back every week. I think that's the project. Like funny hats on mannequin heads. Not too many mannequins. Themed hats. And the other strategy is to have a commonality between the video thumbnails. So always to have my face in the corner with a hat or laser glasses or something else. So you know it's mine. And I'm thinking about like a banner at the top that's blue with a little logo that's got the text on that says what it is, so that you sort of see it. It's the way the Hacksmith does it. And Bob from I Like to Make Stuff's got a similar common branding. So when you see that video on your feed and it's like a random thing, you know it's one of mine. So that's it's been another reband. So I've got a new YouTube header and all that stuff with sort of similar graphics that match the t-shirt style for the merchandise store. So yeah, it's like all getting branded across everything, hopefully, so it's consistent. You'll notice potentially the Patreon banner's just been changed as well to match, so it's all common branding across everything. Things that catch fire. I'm not sure what that is, but there'll be, I don't know, I do have a project with fire in plans, but I don't know when that's happening. So yeah. All right. Sure what that was the end of the sentence for. The project room for things that you keep and things that catch fire. Oh, garage would work and things that catch fire. Anyway, oh, the singing robot collaboration, right? Sorry, yes, just caught up with that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't want to do too much fire myself because I'm not Colin. I'm not making pulse jets, but there might be more scientific use of fire. Yes, or accidental, but we don't. That's not being planned, obviously. Right, good. Yeah, but I will be doing more music stuff, but more offbeat. It's got to be offbeat. I'm not just gonna be doing, I don't know, normal synth stuff, because it's got to have a backstory and a theme to it. So yeah, anyway, I've got lots of ideas. If you've got any ideas or you've got anything you want to see, especially giant Lego minifig vehicles and stuff, we can put some like intelligence in and make them into animatronics, then that'll be quite interesting. Let me know your ideas. All right, so I think that I'm going to end the live stream now. Thank you all again, and thanks for watching. Yep, the next patron early video is Laser EQ comes out. It's probably going to be tomorrow, if I remember to put it up, which I should. All right, I think that's it. All right, thank you and goodbye. See you next time.